seated. We want to get started because there's much excitement. So good afternoon. I'm Rylin RODGERS. I'm the Disability Policy Advisor for a little company called Microsoft. But most importantly, I'm happy to be here today to hear and learn from each of you and everyone on our panel. So excited to dive in and hear the innovations that are being explored and used to change lives. By way of description, I am a middle-aged white woman with brown and increasingly white hair. I will not discuss the weight or size related to the middle age, but wearing a cream dress and a blazer. So happy to join in the conversation. How our format is going to work is we're going to hear pitches from 4 different companies, and I have the great pleasure of being able to engage in some questions and answers with my esteemed colleague, who I'll let introduce themselves, and then we will, at the end, have a few minutes for questions from the audience.
Hello, good afternoon again. I'm Wolfgang Schilk, representative of a large bank in Austria, responsible for risk management, and more than curious to learn about interesting and really helpful new technologies. I already joined the first session, and I have to say I'm inspired and touched and can't wait to listen to the next presentations. Thank you very much.
We learned earlier that we have a little bit of magic of discovery in finding out who we get to hear from first, from our partners in the audiovisual, who will bring up the slides for our first presentation. Drum roll, please. This is excellent.
I win. So I'm still Christopher from Google. That hasn't changed, at least not that I've been told. I'm here to present Google Lookout, which is a product that we've created. It's been around for several years, and it's something I'm quite proud of. So the mission of Lookout is to provide people who are blind or have low vision with the essential tools to interact with the world. The long-term goal is to make an essential tool to support the blind and low vision communities, to help them make their tasks more efficient, and to help them, and eventually to help them across different services and form factors. As the technology evolves, imagine someday where we have augmented reality. We'll want to make sure that we can provide support for people wearing magic glasses. And then also work internally inside Google to make sure that our partner teams understand what technologies exist and how to make them better so we can all support the blind and low vision community. And the reason we do this is because with 285 million people who are blind or low vision, that's a lot of people. And a significant number of them, I apologize for my Google acronym, are in emerging markets. So understanding this means we are trying to create tools that meet a global population. You have tools like a service animal or a white cane. They help with physical obstacle avoidance, but the rest of the world is text because it was invented by people who can see. So providing tools that support this bridge between what a person can do and what the world was that created without them in mind is one of the purposes of this. So we use machine learning and artificial intelligence to solve some of these challenges. And eventually we want to delight users by having these things be easy to understand, allowing them to live their lives as efficiently as possible. We have several current functions. One of the most important things is that we read printed text. We have a text mode that announces short text as things come into frame, for skimming, for example. But we also have a document mode where we can take an image of something and provide you a description and read out the text for you in many different languages. We can describe an image for you. We can also tell you what's in the room around you. As you held the camera from side to side, we can tell you what's around you. We can also identify food packaging, either from the label or from the barcode that's there. And even banknotes, we can recognize US dollars because they're all the same size and all the same color, and not that usable for many people, but also euros and Indian rupees. But what I have to say, I think is probably the most important thing, is that we're not perfect. None of this technology is perfect. We're on an evolution to make the technology better and more useful. And this is something that we do in collaboration with the community. As the technology evolves, we work with the community to make sure we're solving the right problems. So this is where we are today, and I'm really excited to where we get to go in the future. And to date, we've had some really positive impacts. I'm not going to read all of that. On this slide, we have some impact statements from the people who've been using the application. One person said, currency identification worked flawlessly in all test cases. Another one said, it doesn't matter how good OCR, or optical character recognition, is if a blind person isn't able to take a good image of the text. But Google Lookout has solved the problem beautifully. So the reason we can do this is because we partner so closely with the community. We work with them to understand why is it hard for someone who's blind to use a camera. It's harder than you think, and then the computer science to solve and work around that is even harder than we thought at first. And it took us time to make it better and better over time. One of the things I'm most proud of is the robust localization strategy we have. We have 23 different languages where we surprise optical character recognition, from Bengali, from Czech, Hindi, Hungarian, Polish, Romanian, Turkish, and Vietnamese. In terms of food labels, we understand food in 13 different countries, and we support 3 different currencies. But I think it's easier to understand what it is by watching it in action. So the UI, the core UI of the application is quite simple. We have little buttons on the bottom. They're quite big and high contrast, so they're easy to recognize. And we have a visual audio and visual notification system to tell someone when an image is in focus or not. We use a lot of audio and haptic representations. But I think the easiest way is just to listen to it happen. I need to apologize, this is not very fancy. It is a demo that we shot for internal purposes, but I think it explains the application quite well. I seem to be unable to start. May I have some help, please?
This is a demo of Lookout by Google.
Thank you.
Helping people with vision loss explore the world. Here's a user using quick read mode to sort business cards.
Lawns Peak, Pub and Tap House, Pub and Tap House. Lindsay, better buy 10 drinks, get your 11th one free. Any size, any drink, anywhere.
We're
Dutch
moving
Bros,
cards in front of the screen.
The Gypsum Rose Minerals Fossils Jewelry. 303, Furniture, Sunflower Furniture, Mid-Century Modern, American Wood, Danish and Scandinavian. Shop Small Saturday, Shop Local, Shop Longmont, Shop Small, $10 off.
So as you move the
Now we
camera,
see the user looking
as you move the
through
cards to
history
it, you can
to
see it.
all the things Lookout has just spoken.
And now we have actually the text versions of what was just shared there, and you can share this.
Next, currency mode with a well-framed bill,
US $1
a
bill,
folded in half bill,
US $1 bill,
and a bill mostly obscured by the user's hand.
US $10 bill.
So we're using computer vision, not any kind of
Scan
recognizing the
document
number.
mode helps a user read a book page.
Move device towards bottom left. Move towards bottom left. Bottom left. Move device left. Hold still. Chapter An Unexpected Party. Hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole.
Food label mode reads barcodes and looks up product labels.
Annie's homegrown extra cheesy cheddar bunnies case of product not recognized. Try rotating it to other sides. Libby's pure pumpkin, 15-ounce can.
And explore mode recognizes various objects.
2 bananas. Spoon, scissors, fork.
Lookout also has light level awareness. Here's a user looking for a $20 bill in a
Stop
dark
button.
closet.
Double tap to activate. Low light, flashlight on. US $1 bill. US $10 bill. US $20 bill. Flashlight off.
This has been a demo of Lookout by Google.
So what we've done is we've collaborated with the community to understand what the problems are. For example, the low light situation is not something that was immediately obvious. If someone is unable to see, they may not know that the lights are out. So we just take care of it for them and let them know that it's happening so they're aware why things might not be what they expect. But through this collaboration, we created an application experience that we hope meets their needs today. And as we evolve the technology forward together, we make something that meets their needs in the future. Thank you.
With pleasure, I would like to ask the first question, connecting with your speech at the end of the first session, that the main problem is awareness. And so I would just be interested how you create awareness. What are the cooperations you do to make many people who obviously could benefit from such an innovation, to make aware that there's a very nice device on the market which can ease their life or change their life. So what do you actually do to improve awareness?
So one of the things we try to do is collaborate with charities, NGOs, advocacy organizations to make sure that if we go to, say, the RNIB in the UK or the NFB in the US, these are organizations that represent the community of the blind and low vision. We work with them so they understand that it exists, and hopefully they can share this amongst with their communities. We participate in events like this. There are events that happen all over the world, and where we have the technology that's useful, we try to share this with them and talk about it. But as I said earlier, this is an unsolved problem. There is so much that's out there. We're still learning how the best way to do it. So I don't have a great answer.
So I understand this also as a request to all of us to promote good ideas, which we are happy to contribute. And in terms of user acceptance, what is the biggest challenge for you if somebody has a certain disability and needs a help, what is the biggest factor to convince at least trying this functionality? What are the hurdles?
Trying it isn't the problem. The challenge I've seen most is that sometimes it is so successful, expectations get raised unnecessarily high or unfortunately high, and then we don't meet their expectations because they want something that's perfect. And the technology really isn't perfect yet. That's why I mentioned at the very beginning, this is an evolutional technology. As the machine learning and the computer vision gets better over time, their experience will be better, but they want everything now, as they should.
Okay.
And we can't meet that expectation, but we're trying our best.
Thank you.
So I loved the starting frame that this will evolve over time, because that is the reality that we're currently in and sort of rushing through. I wonder, in the evolution piece, how you think about some of the challenges related to ethics. In your demo, we didn't see faces, and that's an area where we think about AI and some ethical challenges of facial recognition. Are there other pieces around ethics and privacy that are guiding this work?
So we work very closely with our security and product inclusion folks. We don't do personal recognition because what if you get it wrong? You don't want to accidentally misgender someone. There's so many things that could go wrong if you make any assumptions based off how someone looks. So we simply don't do it. So we try to avoid the situations where we could offend someone, we could hurt someone. And so it's just not part of what we do. And sometimes we'll experiment with it to see how good the technology is. And if we realize we can't do it well enough, we'll literally cancel that feature, pull it back on the shelf until things get better, and maybe we might revisit in the future.
And I don't think you mentioned cost.
It's free. All of the assistive technology that comes with Google is free. Google Lookout is not built into Android. Oh, I need to say, if you're lucky enough to have an Android phone, this will work for you. Unfortunately, this doesn't work on iOS. Apple is more than welcome to make their own. But all of the technology we have on Android is free. So everything from Lookout to Live Transcribe to Look to Speak, all of these tools are and also in Chrome, they're free. We don't charge anything for this.
Thank you. Asking for assistance to help us know who will share their learning with us next. So are our colleagues that are joining us remotely, so we'll turn the virtual floor over.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Zero Project team members, fellow awardees, sponsors, friends, and partners of the Zero Project. My name is Lilian, and I'm representing Digital Dream today to share about our project submission on how the use of interactive projections is helping to level up the learning opportunities for children with disabilities. The next slide. Digital Dream, we are a registered social enterprise in Singapore with a mission of providing affordable digital solutions to the community. Our technology provides enhanced experiential learning for all ages with research-backed solutions that are inclusive and intergenerational. You'll see in the next slide, our business model comprise these 4 key areas: education, healthcare, commercial, and social service, where we focus on special needs education for persons with disabilities. Next. To give you a context of special needs education in Singapore, we have 39 special needs schools in Singapore as of September last year. Our immersive mixed reality system, which we brand as iCube, is a software developed by Digital Dream. And this software focuses on experiential learning for children with disabilities. It uses projections onto walls and floors that are co-created with special needs educators to create immersive and interactive environments that allow children to learn real-world situations through games, quizzes, puzzles, sports, and other knowledge-based activities. iCube has, within the last 5 years, been installed in 10 special needs schools and centers. Besides special needs schools, you'll see in the next slide, we've also installed our technology in elderly homes and care centers. Preschools in the next slide. Preschools and intervention centers. And in the next slide, we have also participated in sports and events. And what you're seeing on the picture, in a recent international sports event that was hosted last December, persons with disabilities were able to partake in various games in the immersive environment, and they enjoyed a wonderful time alongside their peers and international tournament players. Next. From the activities we just shared, we were always driven very much by these outcomes: mental well-being for the persons with disabilities, their academic skills, their social skills, and for the teachers, their teaching efficacy. And all of these have been concise in our research preprint, which I will leave with you the link on this slide. In the next slide, we show that 5 years into the development of iCube, we continue to innovate further into other solutions, such as iTiles, iRead, iCreate, iFlip. We will leave you the link of a video to these innovations as part of the video that you've seen earlier as well. And in the next slide, here's the end of my slides. It's thanks to all of our partners for bringing us to where we are. And we hope that the Zero Project will bring us even further. Thank you.
So I loved the emphasis and the research and the outcomes Can you tell me a little bit more about the amount of time for the educational sort of use of the product? How much time are students spending with it in the course of a day, and how many days or weeks or months does the interaction need to occur for the benefit?
Okay, first of all, to develop the contents that can be used in the immersive space, our product comes with not just the installation, but we provide training to the co-creators, to the teachers, and we provide lots of templates for them to use. So in creating the contents, they can do it very fast, within a days or 1 week, depending on how complex their games or their puzzles are. So some of them are able to do it within just 2 days. But for the complex one, perhaps it could take them a couple more days. The schools, it depends on how, oh yes, there is something I would like to emphasize as well. We have made it so easy that the teachers do not need any coding knowledge. We teach them. And we handhold them, and that teaching session just spent over 2 half days. And we have tried that 2 half days, and the teachers were on their own, and they were amazing. They did great job, and it's like learning PowerPoint. Depending on the schools, some of them have got curriculum where they send their students through the lesson every day. Some of them maybe once a week for a half to 45 hours lessons. And we ourselves, we have actually witnessed one of the schools where they bring their students through a class session that lasted half an hour. And after that half an hour, the students were actually asking for more. So we were actually very encouraged by that.
Thank you.
If I may, one question. You offer solutions for education, so the quality of the content obviously is crucial. So who makes sure that the quality is there and the content provided is following the standards or the rules or even the legal framework in the particular country? Who is checking this?
So far, we have been working with the special needs schools, and the teachers themselves have got their own pedagogy, and they have their own strict rules within their schools. So we trust them in that. And when they teach lessons, we have seen them teaching academic lessons like math, sciences. They have even done sports on our immersive system. So it's like running any other classroom lesson. That question can, I think it applies to any lesson that they are teaching.
Thank you very much.
When we saw the video, we see images in the screens. Can you clarify for me in terms of moving to other countries, is there any language that translation that would be needed, or is it an image-based experience?
There shouldn't be any problem with language because the system allows for the lesson plans to be put into the immersive environment. We have done in Malay, we have done in Chinese without difficulty.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll look for our next awardee. Oh. Thank you. Passing the torch.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, and thank you for coming here to present something it's very important for me. I'm going to show you Milla's digital platform based on, you probably see her a bit, this girl, Milla, my daughter. Being understood is what Milla says is all about. Many hundreds of thousands of children, young people, and adults all over the world today use signs or Makaton, as I said my daughter Milla here does. Makaton is a unique language program that uses symbols, signs, and speech to enable people to communicate. But much of the training of Makaton and also sign language users takes place using paper, analog, or semi-digital solutions. There are little or no good ways for those around to be able to learn the user's own signs, to understand what the user is actually trying to show with his or her hands. This creates communication crashes and frustrations in many homes all over the world, as you see with Milla and her grandma. For grandma to understand Milla, she needs to be close all the time. She needs to get all her signs all the time to know how to respond when Milla says something to her with her hands. The idea of how to learn and share signs came after a selfie with me and Milla in early on. We were practicing new signs because of sharing it with grandma and others. And when I did this the first time, I saw something sparkling in her eyes, to see herself on film, to see me doing a sign. And as I used to say, this is the beginning of an idea I started back in 2015.
Hi.
Hello, she says.
Hi. Can you say hi? Hi. Hi.
Here she is around 3 years, and she had a lot of signs in her, a big vocabulary with signs, but also very frustrated and very angry because of the issues I mentioned about sharing her signs, that the surroundings around her couldn't understand what she tried to say with her hands all the time. As many probably know, sign language has its own language and how to do the signs. But when a child is small or motoric not that good, they do it in different ways, and we need to know what is Milla saying, not only what is the sign for what she's saying. Milla says, think we have solved this problem, this challenge, creating a language environment as a digital platform. The most important for us is the community, the network, to know what the sign users actually trying to say and help the sign users being better in communication with everyone, actually. The main solution app is this Sharing by Milla Says app, where you create this community by inviting. I, as a father, create a network around Milla and invite families, friends, professionals working with Milla, and so on, and give them roles. Some adding films of Milla doing signs for eating, drinking, etc. So everyone gets this push notification, everyone in the network gets a push notification, telling them a new sign is created around Milla. They also have this library of all of Milla's signs, so they have it with them all the time and can be aware of what Milla is trying to say when they meet her. Then after this solution, we created a new app, Communicated by Milla Says. This is an app for Milla to have with her, so she can herself teaching or learning her signs in her library, but also have it with her all over the place. If someone is not in the network and know her signs, she can navigate by herself, showing what she's trying to say independently. Because in sharing, we add a film of the sign, the name on the sign, and a symbol or a photo representing the sign. And when she using communicator, she knows how to navigate by the images and the photos, and then the film will appear. The last app in this digital communication solution is SayWhat, that is a, what I say, play to learn app. The signs in sharing synchronize over to the SayWhat app, also as in the communicator app. So it's Milla's own personal signs grandma can play with when she's playing on the SayWhat app. We got some results from Norway, where we are today selling and have users. That shows reduced frustrations, as Milla had, and they are reduced, definitely. Increased communication for those around with Milla and with the users. And members are now using more signs together with the users. That means they are communicating with each other on Milla's language. And we'll show you a little film on how this communicator works for the users in Norway. This personal signs on their own tablet. They can sit and learn their own, repeat their own signs and also bring with them. Thank you. The market for those who uses Macathon is based on the features from the Macathon community itself, in addition to experiences we have with the environments in Norway. Macathon is communication used all over the world. As I say Macathon, I know it's based on the British Sign Language, but I use it to tell you what Milla says is actually all about. In Norway, we use Norwegian Sign Language, but it's also the personal signs combined with symbols and photos and the sound and the speech. We have a good team in Norway. We are starting to get good results in Norway, but we need to see how the opportunity to take Milla to see the next level, the international level. And we want someone with us to try it out internationally outside Norway, because we see the result in Norway, as I said, and we want to see the same results outside Norway, because I know the problem I mentioned with the community, the network, the communication with everyone, for the sign language users and Macathon users, it's the same. Thank you.
Well, I think you perhaps won the day with the Cuteness Award, because that video was fantastic. I had a couple of questions. One was around the use of the system for folks beyond sign language. It occurred to me that perhaps that network and those videos could be helpful for children or adults who have non-typical speech patterns and sounds that clearly are words, not maybe recognized in other language systems, if there have been thought about that. And then my other question is sort of the business challenge of, is this something that would need to be funded by a school system, social services, families? How to untangle that?
I can only talk about how we do it in Norway, but the first question, definitely, the platform is there to be used, yeah, so it's definitely there. The app sharing, as I talked about, is empty. You fill it in yourself with the content you need. That's why I say the importance is the personal science for us. The business model in Norway, we sell this by people who see this is important for their child or the adults. Using sign language in Norway, they apply for a governmental solution where the government are paying for you to have the whole package to use for your family and the surroundings and the sign language users himself or herself. Outside Norway, I know it's very different from country to country and so on. It's different in Norway in each region too, but it's not a big market, you know, all know. So of course, I think you need some support from a governmental or a social system, I guess, or a bigger company who sees other possibilities with our solution in the bottom. Yeah.
So I understood you created a very specific vocabulary based on signs, symbols, gestures, whatever. So just for my understanding, how many of those signs are now in use? So how many symbols have you created, and how complex is the language already?
Oh. You mean in how many signs is added in the system total from the users?
Yes,
oh.
yes.
Maybe if we launched in 2018-19, 30,000 plus signs is added from parents and kindergartens into the different personal individual networks. That's a number as far as I know. It's not complex. It's actually very easy. The important here is just to grab the phone, film the child or adult who is working with the child to get it in the library, show it to the network, and start using it.
And this is a kind of international language, I understand, or do you see specifics just working in this country, Norway, or somewhere else, or it is really a worldwide, theoretically a worldwide specific language usable for those customers?
It's definitely national. We can translate it to all languages in the world in a couple of weeks, just to translate the menu texts, and then the users are taking it to the next level and fill it with sign language, the British sign language, American sign language, etc., and the personal sign language, and combine it. So it's definitely an international possibility, and of course. A lot of the signs in the British, in American, and in Norwegian sign language is more like the same in different ways, of course, but still. So, yeah.
Interesting. Clearly, the explanation must be translated into the local language, but the signs per se are kind of totally international, well understood around the world.
I think someone else is better than me to say something about that, but yeah, I think so, yeah.
Thank you very much.
So now there's no surprise in terms of who is left to share your learning and product.
Okay. Thank you so much. My name is José Rubinger. I am the CCO and co-founder of Key to Enable. And I will have my colleague, CVO, Chief Visionary Officer, Esha KHURSHID, and she will do the pitch. Actually, she's here with us.
We're hoping, and there she is.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to see Jose over there, and I'm just so glad to be able to connect even remotely. So my name is Esha KHURSHID, and I am the Chief Visionary Officer at Key to Enable. And it's such a pleasure to be recognized amongst all the other awardees as well, towards a joint mission towards having a world with zero barriers. So let's get into it, tell you more about the KeyX. So next slide, please. So the KeyX, or which we also call the nucleus of our solution, was actually conceptualized by one of our co-founders called Glycin. And Glycin was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. And it took him about 8 years to graduate in computer science because he was using a head pointer to access digital technology or the traditional keyboard that we all use. And he really understood the pain from within. And the other co-founders then kind of joined hands with him to bring his idea to life. So what we've now developed is a multifunctioning smart keyboard, which literally does all the commands of your usual keyboard. It also acts as a mouse or a cursor, and it actually acts with dual action since there are 11 large touch-sensitive keys on it. And it was essentially designed for people with physical and motor disabilities. Next slide, please. So once we went into the rehabilitation centers, we started understanding better that there are a lot of other individuals with more restrictive motor and physical disabilities. And we knew that the KeyX would not be enough. So what we went on to do was create more supportive accessories that would cater to more individuals with restrictive motor and physical difficulties. So the pictures that you can also see starting left to right is the A blinks, and then you have the X button, and then you have the X squeeze. So the A blinks, it's a motion sensor device which can be attached to your frame of your eyeglasses, and then with eye movements and blinking, it can actually access the keyboard. So that's why we call it the nucleus of our solution, because all the accessories get plugged into or connected with our keyboard. And then you can see the X button is the middle image. So it's essentially a button again, and it can be used with any part of the body which has mobility. So you could place the button under your chin and access it with that, or your elbow. And then we have the X squeeze, which is like an air pressure balloon. So people who can just kind of squeeze with the lightest squeeze or the strongest squeeze can again access any type of digital technology. So another interesting thing is that you don't have to charge anything. You don't have to download any softwares. It's just immediately plug and play. Next slide, please. And once we started piloting in public schools and private schools, what we started noticing was people with cognitive differences. They were really drawn to the keyboard because, as you can see in the image as well, it's colorful, it has shapes, and it has colors, and it also does light up. We're also, by the way, at the expo, so we invite everyone to come and physically see all our solutions. So once these individuals were, showing so much interest with the keyboard, we realized that we must include more individuals. And then we went on to create the online platform, and the online platform has two modes. So you can have alternative communication, and you can also have cognitive stimulation. So with cognitive stimulation, you have interventionists or parents or caregivers. They can actually create flexible learning tasks using the keyboard again. And how you can use the keyboard in a more gamified way, what we did is we went on to create an opaque mask that goes over the keyboard. So it takes away all that extra stimulation that can be overwhelming for certain students with cognitive differences. And it just will show up with the buttons, with the colors and the shapes, and then it shows up on the screen on the task as well. So it's a very fun learn to play techniques can be incorporated as well. And another very interesting thing over here is we've actually started using this with seniors who have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia. Next slide, please. This is something I'm very proud of, is our metrics, keeping in mind the pandemic that did set us all back. And so I'm going to just quickly kind of share a few numbers right off the bat from here. So we now have about 13,000 plus users on our educational platform. We have about 10,000 users globally using all our solution. We are in about 170 rehabilitation centers and 700 schools. We're actually also working with war veterans in Armenia who came back from service and wanted to gain employability, and they were, because of service, had physical difficulties or differences or disabilities, sorry. We were able to advocate for their employability using our solution. So that was a huge win for us as well. We're working with 15 of them. We are present, or rather started more conversations in about 28 different countries around the world. During the pandemic, we really focused on research and case studies. We really wanted to ensure that we understood how our solution was getting used again when we really advocate for autonomy and independence as well. Next slide, please. So Key to Enable has always realized that we wanted to be more than just a solution provider. We didn't just want to create an assistive technology and solution and just put it out there. We knew that if we wanted true inclusion and accessibility, we need to rally the community around us. So we created the Pledge to Enable campaign, which is going out to particularly for the MENA region, where our team is actually giving out 60-day plans and awareness sessions for specialists in that region alongside case studies. We have started a lot of pilots in Saudi Arabia as well. What we've also done is we've kind of created this really interesting social innovation friendly competition, which is catered to 5 to 14-year-olds, which brings children with disabilities and without disabilities to come together as a team to create social innovations with our partners from Twin Science and Special Olympics. And of course, it's really about leaving a legacy behind. So we've also launched our Youth Ambassador program early this year. And we've already have success stories with the Canadian university students who won Social Innovation Awards, because through the program, we're offering a lot of mentorship. We're teaching them about advocating and campaigning around inclusion and accessibility, no matter what their field of study is. Next slide, please. So yes, I've also mentioned about our research. This is something we really find important, that in every region where we want to start any form of pilots, we understand having data-based evidence in those regions are important. So we've started that with Zayed University in UAE as we're piloting with 11 schools in Abu Dhabi. We've started our demos with Rwanda and India, which was very important and close to our hearts. Especially as we've been working with a lot of clients over there who may find assistive technology difficult to afford. So finding the right funding for them or CSR projects for them as well, so that they can get the solution at the right time, has been quite close to our hearts as well. Next slide, please. So essentially, we make revenue through hardware sales, of course, our online subscription model of our online platform, and of course, selling services of training for around our assistive technology. Next slide, please. Our business structure, yes, the most optimal approach, of course, for us is the top-down approach, where we would love more projects or B2G projects, pilot projects with the government. And then, of course, we reach out to our B2B clients, who are private schools, rehabilitation centers, hospitals, specialized clinics, and so on. Our B2C clients are the support groups that we reach out to, who individually buy our solutions. And we partnered up with an e-commerce platform as well, where we also offer affordable options in buying the solution. So rental, installments, everything. Next slide, please. Yes, we have definitely seen a growth in revenue since the last year and after the pandemic, of course. But I think our main challenges, being such a small core team, because most of our revenue, what happens is it goes into a lot of research, making sure the right data evidence reports are there with us on time. We're definitely having challenges around marketing as well. And as we all know, in any product, selling hardware has always been difficult. So kind of creating that lifetime value, where we're thinking about strategic options where we can collaborate more with mainstream online platforms that can become more inclusive and accessible. So that is one of the strategies we're trying to implement, but it has been a massive challenge for us. And yes, we really do stand for equal educational opportunities and equal job opportunities and workplace equity at Key to Enable. And that's about it. And thank you.
Thank you very much. A quick question from a non-technical expert, but I learned today that there are several companies, obviously, and rightfully dealing with developing tools easy to use for customers having certain disabilities. So what makes your keyboard so special? Why is your solution the best one or even unique? What is the real difference-making facility or capability of this keyboard and feature of the keyboard? How would you describe it?
May I get
I would
this one?
definitely say there. Oh, sure. Actually, Jose, go ahead. Go ahead, Jose.
At least they will listen to my voice. So
Go ahead.
we have our solution in the booth there in front of M2. And I definitely would love to show you there, because what we have been proving, not to the world yet, but actually in Brazil, is that when we mix the technology side of this together inside these schools and special needs educators and all these professionals, when they have a solution that they can actually explore, children with and without disabilities get together. So this is what we have been doing, that it's really doing a really difference when we install the solution inside these schools. So it's not only about enabling them to write or enabling them to communicate, but also communicate and play and engage with the other kids that before they were not doing this. So, for example, one of the things that we have is why a child like Allison, for example, he is 12 years old, and he was going to the school like for all this time. The brain was being stimulated. He knew the letters, but he could not communicate the way that he wanted. And remember that in Brazil, we have 1.1 million children inside regular classrooms. So we are really very good at doing this. But Allison was invisible. As soon as the solution was there, and that crazy keyboard full of colors, kids started playing with him, and now he has published 3 comic books, and he wants to be a movie producer. So this kind of things shows us that we are in the right track.
So we've had a bit of a theme this afternoon about the reality that there's so many excellent, innovative, award-winning products and solutions, but many voices have talked about the challenge of access and the challenge of transformation. And you talked about the solution of bringing these tools to make websites and platforms more accessible and other parts of the ecosystem. Can you talk a little bit more about what you're trying there and how we might learn to do that so that it is an unlocker for our next producer star in Brazil, but also it's an unlocker for access in all of the infrastructures?
Please let me have this, because this is what I have been waiting here. So this is the best question ever. So,
well, wait a minute. Is she giving it to you?
No, because,
okay.
I think she will,
Carry on.
because we agreed, you know?
Yeah.
So we are tech guys. We produce stuff. So if we find someone that needs something, we just do it. Like, for example, this we called Colibri. Colibri in Brazil, it's like hummingbird. So it gives freedom to those who does not have movement neck down, okay? So if I just connect it here in the phone, it will, just with my head movement, I can do whatever I want here in a smart TV. I can watch to Netflix. But why I'm saying this? Because if I think that everybody knows Pascal from At Scale. He wants to make that assistive technology is available to underserved communities and to everybody. So we already understood that every place that we put this technology, we can have success stories. Myself, I have like more than 1,000 videos with success stories, and maybe we can have much more than that, because we have been there. I have been in the field. And why it's not there? Maybe because it's hardware, it's expensive, because assistive technology is expensive. For example, I'm living in the UAE, and we have assistive technology there that starts with $7,000, $25,000, and things like that. So that's why I wanted to answer this. Why not, if companies like us, for example, us, we license this to governments where they can manufacture this inside their countries, and we also give employment to people, and they can actually say that, hey, we are building assistive technology inside our country to our citizens. So I want to do that. So if someone wants to talk about it, I really want to do that.
It's good. Big changes, change the world. That brings us to the conclusion of hearing from our 4 great award winners. I think we have maybe 4 or 5 minutes for questions from the audience. So if you have a question, you can use a microphone so that we can all hear, especially we want to make sure our remote presenters are able to hear questions.
If there is no question, it's because nobody understood anything. Please.
Oh, it was so clear.
Yeah, please, ask anything, like, how old are you? Something like that.
Yes?
Yeah, see? It always works.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes,
Yes.
you can. So, hi, I'm Lana from South Africa. So your last statement around building it in the country and creating job opportunities, how would you go about that with convincing governments who have very little funding and don't really like to spend the money on inclusivity? How would you go about convincing them that this would be something that would be of interest?
So I have been working with government since 1999. And I have been, of course, I started this in 2015, but before I was selling equipments, technology, and everything to the governments. And I learned that they do have the money. The thing is, of course, they need to focus on what they want. And what I'm talking about is, imagine 10,000 children inside schools that would need a technology that costs $7,000. It would be like some millions of dollars. I don't even have the number here, but it would be like maybe 70 million US dollars. But imagine if the same government that wants to make it happen talks to us, like companies that are creating this technology, and hey, do you license this to our country so we are able to manufacture this? Because to manufacture something in a country, you just need to give them the right procedures to do that. Because factories, they are all over the place. There was a guy here that said that I forgot the name of the country. Oh, we do not have these manufacturers there. They do have. It's because you don't know. But every country has a manufacturer. So imagine if this kind of things can cost around $100. It's impossible to say no to put this in all the schools, for example, right? So the money is there. Of course, if you want a lot of money, maybe it's not. But if you want less, it will be there. I can convince them. If you invite me, I will go there and see what we can do.
Sounds great. We'll invite you. And good luck.
Anyone for the final question? Well, I'll take the final question for the panelists. If your dream for where this will be 1 year from now, when we check back in next year, what's the change? What's the difference that you will see? Can I start?
My dream is that we have Milla says launched outside Norway, seeing users with the same results as we see in Norway, even they are small or old users, and that we see more communication with those persons.
Do we still have digital dream? Do you want to tell us your dream for next year?
Yes. I would go a year even beyond that. Our long-term goal is to have our system in all special needs schools, not just in Singapore, but internationally.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Better quality, more languages, more ability to make people's lives easier.
Esha, now let her say something.
I mean, this is how we do it. We're like this power team who tackles it together all the time. I think my dream for Key to Enable in the next year is to definitely, be able to establish our assessment tool that we're creating. So we're working with the Ministry of Education right now to build an early assessment tool for those countries who cannot afford formal diagnosis, and then children have to go through long waiting lists before they get accepted into classrooms. So that would make our solution more holistic. So I'm seeing that that becomes a very successful project. That's our short-term goal, but long-term, we're also building like a teacher support network so that everybody comes together on one platform and they can exchange valuable information.
So please join me in supporting those dreams and thanking our panelists.